Hey y'all, it's Bailey with Reclaim Grace. I'm so happy you clicked on this video today. I have 5 projects ready for y'all. A few of them are some milk paint projects, and one doesn't really feel like it belongs in this video, but I am just making over as many items as I can that have been sitting in my stash for a while to try to get lots of new items in both of my vendor booths to give it a fresh spring feel. So y'all let me know what y'all think about today's projects, and we're going to get started right now. I hope everyone is doing well today. Our first set of projects is a redo. I had these set of candlesticks in my booth for $27.95 during the fall season, and they did not sell. I had painted them originally in a mustard milk paint, and I think it was just the color. So we're going to change the color up, and I'm going to use Sweet Pickins O Olive. I'm going to use 2 scoops of powder and 2 scoops of water. Whisk that, and I did let it sit to the side for about 10 minutes to thicken up. And we're going to go ahead and apply 2 good coats of milk paint, drying in between with the heat gun between coats. I have found when using milk paint, it's better to use a chip brush instead of a good synthetic brush. It really applies better in my opinion. So this is what it's looking like after the first coat. I'm going to zap that dry with the heat gun and then go ahead and get the rest of my candlesticks painted. Using a Lazy Susan is really helpful when painting items like this. So this is what we're looking like after 2 coats. I'm having some crackle and some chipping, some of that yellow paint's coming through, and I really like the way it looks. I'm going to use the Fusion Agent Wax to seal these up, and since I'm not using any clear wax first, I'm going to work in sections, and I'm also going to use a baby wipe instead of a blue shop towel so I can pull back a little extra wax, and look at that difference. I'm going to continue applying the wax and get these candle holders sealed up. And that's it for this project. Y'all let me know if y'all like this green color better. I know they sold the very next day, and I kept the price the same, $27.95 for the set of 3. Y'all let me know what y'all think about these. Project 2 is this old wooden stool. I thrifted this a few weeks ago for a couple of dollars. It has a really thick layer of brown paint on it, and it is very dirty. So I want to start out by cleaning it really well with Windex and a shop rag. Once we are cleaned up, I'm going to mix up some Flour Sack Sweet Pickins milk paint. I think this is most of the projects in today's video is using milk paint again. I did not plan that. That's just kind of what I was feeling. So once we get this Flour Sack mixed up, I did let it sit for the normal 10 minutes to let it thicken. And you can really see right here the consistency I'm looking for before I start painting. I'm going to start on the underside of this stool. It's always easier to paint the bottom of your pieces first so you don't mess up your top painted piece. I did apply a few coats, I think 3 coats of Flour Sack, drying in between with my heat gun like usual. I gave the top side a few good coats, the same method, drying in between coats with my heat gun, and I went ahead and let that milk paint fully dry, and then we're going to come in and look at that crackle. We got some really cool crackle on the top. We'll come in with some sandpaper and just distress those sharp edges to bring back some of that brown paint underneath. Now I'm going to find the center of the top of our stool on the bottom and on the top so I can draw a line. I'm going to use the IOD stamp Farm Animals. I'm going to ink up our little sheep right here with some black IOD permanent ink. and I'm going to wipe away any rogue ink that may got on my stamp before we start pressing this onto our project. And I'm going to try to center this sheep by using my line mark. Once I get placement figured out, I'm going to commit, hold with one hand, and really press down with that other hand, making sure I'm pressing all the sections because this is an older piece of wood. It is very texturized, so I'm lifting up an edge just to make sure I have a great impression on my stamp. I'm going to set that ink with my heat gun. So I took out my mask for my sheep. This is included with your stamps, most of them at least. And I have some Fusion mineral paint here in the color Noel. This is a gorgeous neutral green. And I'm just putting some on a piece of paper and using my brayer to get even coverage on my brayer before I ink up or paint my stamp. Using the brayer like this helps the paint stay on the appropriate section of the stamp. So I'm going to use those lines again to make sure I'm centered, and I'm going to really press down on this stamp. Since we're using paint, I find it a little bit more difficult to get the stamp pressed right. You can see I kind of didn't get a good impression right there. So I'm just going to put my mask back on, put a little bit more paint on my stamp, and try to line that up the best I can and rub it a little bit more. This doesn't have to be perfect. I want it to look old and aged, so that impression was fine, and I'm going to continue doing that on the sides of our bench as well. Ticking stripe stamp and this 1879 stamp came from the Mercantile set. So I'm going to ink up this date with the black ink and press this on the corner of my stool. And I also inked up that number 7 just to add another detail to the front of our stool. It is recommended that you seal your milk paint with a wax or an oil. So I'm going to choose a wax. I'm using some clear wax. First, I applied that evenly on the whole stool, and while that is still wet, I'm going to take my Fusion Agent Wax and go right on top of that clear wax. Then I'll use a blue shop towel and buff all that in, and this project is done. I love how this came out. Very farmhouse, and I love it. I priced it for $25.95. Y'all check out that crackle and let me know what y'all think about this project. Project 3, it kind of looks like a hand scoop, but it's a piece of wall decor. I don't really know what this is called, but it's solid wood, and a sweet viewer named Lisa gifted this to me along with a whole truckload of stuff. If y'all haven't checked out that video, I'll try, if I can figure it out, to link it up here in the corner. She was so kind to gift me a whole pile of awesome stuff. So I want to make over this item. I gave it a good clean, and I'm going to tape up the back because the back is in nice shape. There's no real reason to paint it. And I'm going to trim off that excess tape, and I'm going to use the flour sack milk paint again to give our little hand scoop a couple of coats of milk paint. I have a question for y'all. Have y'all ever used milk paint? A lot of people I have talked to are very intimidated by it, so I'm hoping when I show y'all these projects, it gets y'all more comfortable with experimenting with it. It really is a lot of fun, so y'all let me know if y'all have ever used milk paint before. So I did apply 3 coats, drying in between with my heat gun like usual, and I got some awesome chippage on this hand scoop. So I'm just using my paintbrush. This is a paintbrush I use a lot of time to dust my pieces off and just get rid of any chip and paint. Then I'm going to come in with a really 220 grit sandpaper and just hit those sharp edges with some sandpaper and remove that tape and clean up that back area. I'm going to seal this with Sweet Pickins Dark Oil Wax. This is another favorite method to seal milk paint projects, in my opinion. It's very, very easy to use. You just pour it on your project, spread it out somewhat evenly, and let it sit for about 10 minutes. And once it sits, it soaks into that milk paint, and then you just come in with a clean rag or a shop towel and wipe off any excess oil. And this was another simple project that is finished. I priced it for $14.95. I really wish I would have had a grungy candle to put in it, but I just stuck some florals in it and put it in my booth. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this project. Our next project is this breadboard. It's plain breadboard I picked up from my mama's house. I said, can I make that over? And she said yes, so I brought it home. We're going to use Fusion Cashmere this time. This is a gorgeous white color, and I'm going to use a chip brush and pounce over this whole board. I did 2 coats like this. And you know, if you've ever done this, that pouncing takes a long time. It's way easier to just brush something on, but I was looking to create some texture. I'm going to use the IOD Mercantile stamp again. I've already taken everything off of this sheet that I don't want to stamp, like the crown and the number 7 and the wheat. So I'm just going to use this sheet as it is, and I'm going to apply some more of that New Well paint to a piece of plastic, and I'm going to use my brayer again to evenly disperse this paint on the stamp. When using paint, I have realized that you got to work more quickly because the paint dries very fast. I'm going to flip my stamp over and lay it down, rub all over, and once I feel like I have rubbed every area, I'll lift that up. You can see I had to re-stamp that middle section of the laurel, so I did that. I dried that side, and I figured I would just slap something on the back, but I had already cleaned my brayer off, so I just used some black IOD permanent ink on this side with the other sheet that comes in that Mercantile stamp. I did this design, and then I put dry goods on the top. I set my ink with a heat gun, and the other side was already dry, so I'm going to seal this and just age it up with some Fusion aging wax, really focusing on the edges and using a blue shop towel to blend that in. And that is it for this project. I priced it for $23.95, and y'all let me know what y'all think about this double-sided breadboard. In my opinion, I probably shouldn't have put this project in this video because it is a total different vibe than all the other projects, but it's just something that I had worked on for my spring booth reset, so I'm going to go ahead and include it in this video. This is a wooden frame. It's a really unique frame that kind of moves back and forth. We're going to get it painted with a couple coats of that green paint from Fusion New Well. Making sure to get in all the nooks and crannies. This frame had a lot of different angles to paint. So I have a piece of sturdy cardboard and a piece of drop cloth. I'm going to use this Loctite spray adhesive to spray all over this cardboard backing. I'm trying not to get it on the project out of frame here. You know, if you know, this stuff gets everywhere. And then I'm going to smooth over my drop cloth onto our backing, and I'll even use my brayer to make sure it has good contact. I'm going to flip it over and use my hot glue gun just to pull back those edges and wrap it around our cardboard. I'll just work at a side at a time, trying my best not to burn myself, so I'm using a little transfer tool to stick it into the glue. I cut a piece of contractor's paper to glue on the back side of our frame just to cover up where we flip those edges over and glued them down. I sell my pieces, so I want them to be nice and finished. I just used a glue gun to attach it and used an X-Acto knife to trim those edges. I grabbed this gorgeous rose from the Rose Botanical IOD transfer book. I'm going to trim that bottom edge so I can get it flush to the bottom of our frame, and transfers apply great to drop cloth. They apply like you're applying it to any other surface. You just need to rub all over, and my advice would be just to rub a little bit harder when transferring onto fabric. So I rubbed all over the transfer, and now I'm going to start lifting up as I'm rubbing, and this helps the transfer release a lot faster. Once I finished applying these transfers, I just burnished them really well with my hands because I will not be sealing over this since it's on fabric. And that is it for this project. I think it would make a great earring holder with like studs punctured into the fabric and the cardboard. It worked really great. I even tried out some of my earrings for the photographs you'll see coming up. I priced it for $19.95. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this project. And that is all I have for y'all today, my friends. I really hope y'all enjoyed these 5 projects. If y'all did, please hit that like button, comment on which project was your favorite, and consider subscribing if you have not already. We are past the 7,000 subscriber mark, so thank y'all so much for getting me there. I'm going to talk to y'all in the comments. Bye.